Now we have a special segment right now that we are adding, and it's Coach Kirk Broussard, and this is called Inspiration. Coach, the floor is yours.
I just want to be able to bring awareness to anyone that may be going through a difficult time, a hardship, a time where you may be doubting yourself. I just want to share some of my experiences with our listeners to kind of give them some insight on what's taking place with me and how I was able to get through those moments. And one of the things that immediately comes to mind was a time when I was a freshman in college at Pasadena City College in California. And I was an unheralded high school player. I was discovered by this junior college through a combine. And I decided to take the last $600 I had to my name and take a Greyhound bus from Florida to California. At that time, I knew the head coach. I didn't know anyone else in California. I didn't have any friends or family anywhere in Southern California. And when you're 19, that's a big step. And obviously didn't have a lot of finances. I took a Greyhound bus from Florida to California, again with $600 to my name. And when I arrived in California, there was a lot of difficult times that were facing me. And I just want to share a story of something specific that happened to me that a lot of times I question many things. Was that meant for me? Was that the right place for me to be? And I just want to talk about what happened to me and how I got through it. And there was this one particular instance where obviously, so when I got to California, the scholarship covered tuition and books, but we had to cover our own housing. And so when I arrived, it was actually during the summer. And so, I had that entire summer to find a way to cover my housing, to be prepared for the fall, to have a place to live and have things go smoothly. And when I first arrived, they had me staying in a Florida house, is what they call the house. And I remember it was a 3-bedroom house, and we had 13 guys living in a 3-bedroom house. And I remember walking in that house and seeing all those guys living in this house. And the way they had it set up, you had bunk beds in each room, and you had a single bed in each room. And so you had 9 guys in 3 bedrooms. And then you had a guy on the couch. You had a guy behind the couch on an air mattress. And then you had 2 of us sleeping in the dining room on air mattresses. And I was able to get an air mattress, and I was sleeping in the dining room on an air mattress, chasing a junior college football dream. And I remember telling my mom, where I was staying and the conditions, and she basically said to give up and come back home. And I remember thinking that I wanted to stick it out. I wanted to ride it out and try to make it. We weren't in this house long. When you got 18, 19-year-old guys in a house, it's very rowdy, it's very loud. They're damaging things. The owner had came by and did an inspection and noticed things that were broken, holes in walls, neighbors complaining about the noise. We literally were right across from the university, and we ended up getting across from the junior college. We ended up getting evicted from the house. And so at that point, none of us had a place to stay. A lot of guys had been in California for a year, so they had friends and they had places they could kind of go, but I didn't have anything because I just got to this house 2 weeks ago. I was only in there for 2 weeks. So at that point I was homeless. And again, I only had that $600. And so I ended up, I was down about $500, and I found some other guys on the team to room up with, and those guys had a house in mind that we're going to move into. And so my portion of the move-in costs, I was actually $300 shy of what I needed. And so I decided we weren't allowed to work during the season, but we can get jobs in the summer and the off season. And I decided that I couldn't call home for the money. My mom, they didn't have it. My family didn't have it. And so I decided to find a job. And obviously I had to find one fast because we're getting evicted in a few days. And so I started on Colorado Boulevard in Pasadena, and I was going in different stores applying for jobs. I must have went in probably 15, 16 stores up and down this main drag, and I ended up going in the Army surplus store. And again, I was $300 shy of what I needed to get in this house. And I'm a guy from the South. I'm from humble beginnings, and I don't take handouts, and that's the way I was taught. I ended up going in this store, and I asked her for an application, and the lady behind the counter was absolutely a beautiful lady. She looked like a human Barbie, and we started talking, and she gave me an application. And while I'm filling out the application, she's just asking me questions about myself, and she's telling me about herself. And she had told me that she was a radio host in San Diego, one of the biggest ones in San Diego. And you know, beautiful lady, very well articulated. And so as I'm filling out the application, she's asking me questions about myself, and I told her I'm just got out here from Florida playing football, and you know, and I need to get a job. I didn't really share specifically about my situation and the money I needed to get into this house, or I was going to be living on the street. But while I'm doing the application, I noticed out of my peripheral that she goes into her purse and she pulls out her checkbook. And this lady, I've known her for 5 minutes. She's pretty much a complete stranger. And as I'm filling out the application, I see her take a checkbook out, and she writes the check out for $300. And that's exactly what I needed to get into this apartment. And she left a name blank, and then I noticed she glanced at my application, and she copied my name from the application onto the check. And she hands me a check for $300, a complete stranger, a lady I just met. And I said, "What is this?" And she said, "God told me to give it to you." And I'm sitting there with my mouth open. I couldn't believe it. And I said, "I can't accept this." I gave her the check back to her. And she said, "You have to accept it because God told me to give it to you." And she said, "I can't take it back." And I said, "Well, let me earn it. Let me do something around the store and I'll work it off." She said, "You can't earn it. You can't work it off. I have to give it to you as a gift because that's what God told me to do." I was just amazed. I was like, I have to do something. I have to do something to pay you back. She said, "What are you doing this evening?" I said, "I got practice at 2:00. She said, "Well, what are you doing after practice?" And I said, "Nothing." And she said, "Well, I'll tell you what, come to Bible study with me tonight. And if you do that, consider the debt clear."
Oh,
and
wow.
The lady picked me up from practice. I went to Bible study with her. She was so strong in her faith. She told me a story about her husband who had left her for his secretary. She said her faith was so strong that she knows God is going to deliver him back to her, and she's just waiting. And she was just she was just a lady that walked on faith, and you would never know it by her appearance. She looked like she was from 90210 Beverly Hills, just a lady. And that reassured me that there definitely is a God, and he was impacting my life. And that little $300 got me over the hump to get into the apartment. And then I got a job, and I got things rolling, and things got a lot better for me. And I just wanted to share that with someone that may be listening, that may be going through something difficult, that, you know, if you remain faithful and you remain in prayer, you know, great things can happen to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm speechless. I have tears in my eyes because you gave me chills. Thank you so much for being vulnerable with us and letting us know a part of your life that I can totally, you're right. If somebody's listening and they're going through a hard time, because we're all the same.
Yeah.
I mean, we all go through hard times, and I felt like I needed to hear that too for a reason. So Coach Kirk Broussard, thank you so much for sharing.